All right, so we are okay. So we are live, and that's it. Here we go. We're live. All right. All right. We're opening up early, and so Chick, before we go ahead and get into the deeper stuff, I wanted to tell you about my sandwich story.
Awesomeness. I,
Okay.
I was so chatting to you, I forgot to plug in my new microphone, so I'm just doing that right now.
All right.
Sorry, everybody. That was a little bit silly, but whatever.
All right, so here before we get into everything, and I know it's early, so what I'm trying to do is give everybody time to. Hey, Buster, I'm glad you're here, man. Glad you're here. But I just wanted to give some time for people to file in. So what I'll do is while everybody's filing on in, glad everybody's making it. I'll try to send out the link to on the Twitter, but I'm not sure that I don't know. Maybe it'll show up, maybe it won't. But either way, so Chick, before we get into the real deep stuff of today, um, I went to Panera last night, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, right. Okay, so I went to Panera, and I went and I ordered the Italian sandwich. And I love the Italian sandwich because it comes with a peppercini on the sandwich. Literally, like the peppercini itself is literally sitting on the sandwich, so you get some of that crunch with the sandwich. And I've been ordering that sandwich for years now. Years. It's a staple of I do it every week, and I go, and sometimes during the weekdays I'll go to Panera and I'll order the Italian sandwich, and I'll either get like a side of soup, or I'll get the side of baguette, or I'll get the not usually the baguette. I'll usually get like chips or something, right? So I'll get the Italian. I'd like the this the half Italian with a side of the potato chips, and the person behind the counter said, "Well, we don't have that sandwich anymore." I was like, "Oh wow, when did you guys get rid of it?" And she said, "We haven't had it in years." I said, "Well, yeah, you did. You had it. I just had it literally maybe, I don't know, less than 3, 4, maybe 6 months ago. Um, what do you mean?" She was like, "Well, we don't have the sandwich. We haven't had the sandwich in at least 2 years." So finally, I was like, I was gonna let it go. I was like, "Okay, give me a second." I stood out of line, and I got to the back of the line so I could see the menu board. By the time I got up again, back to the front of the line, she brought up a manager, and her manager was there, and the manager was like, "Oh, what were you trying to order?" I said, "The Italian sandwich, but I'll just go ahead and go with." And I think I ordered the Cuban or something. And she goes, "Well, we haven't had that in more than 2 years." I said, "Yeah." She said that, but I mean, I remember having it, just a couple months back. And she's like, "Where did you have the sandwich?" And I gave the other location because I hadn't been to this location before, and I was like, and she was like, "Well, no, it's been more than 2 years." I said, "Okay, all right, fine." And I got tired of arguing. I got tired of arguing about it, right? So finally, I placed my order, and then the manager. After that, I was waiting for the order, and the manager came back and said, "I called that other location. That sandwich hasn't been there for 2 years." And then she hands me a menu. And she goes, "Well, you can look over the menu and see what items we do." I said, "Well, I've already placed my order. I'm fine. Everything's okay." She was like, "Right, but the salami was too expensive. So that's why they stopped selling that sandwich." And she gets into this diatribe about the sandwich, chick. And it was the weirdest thing. And it was like, "What? What do you, what?" She just wouldn't stop. And it was just lunacy. And it was like the most overkill, the most Mandela overkill I've had to deal with in a long time. I think we shifted on, and the sandwich was the pivot point.
That's so crazy. Is my mic too loud before I start talking too much?
Nah, you sound good to me. I mean, if you sound okay to
Good
everybody, I got
stuff.
headphones on too, so it sounds like you sound good. Um,
Hopefully the volumes are okay. I don't want to deafen everyone. But yeah, I just I've come across things like that too, where people are just protesting way too much. Like it should have been like, okay, sir, we don't have the sandwich, and then just give you your sandwich. But the fact that she calls the other location and she wants to like really drive the point home that they haven't had this sandwich in years, you're just like, what the? Who acts like this? Like, unless your name is Karen and you're the meme of the woman of can I speak to your manager? Whereas this is the manager is going after you. It's completely crazy. Um,
It was so
I
upside down, and it was, and she just wouldn't let up, and it was like, what? Why are you coming after me? It's like, okay, look, okay, fine. And I think what she wanted me to do was bend the knee in terms of, and I wasn't doing that because I know about the Mandela effect, and it's like, yo, look, I had the sandwich. And it was really wigging her out because I don't think she's into me. I don't think she had ever heard of the Mandela effect, that, this kind of stuff is popping off every single day to people. It's happening all over the place every day now, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And I was like, I'm just not going to argue with you about it. It happened. And I think that's what was, and I was so cool about it. She just had never experienced like a challenge to it wasn't her authority. It was the challenge to the common narrative that there is, this one consensus that we all agree on. And I was deviating from that, and I wasn't going to bend the knee to that consensus. And it was just, for her, it was just, I guess it was too much for her to handle. But it was like, I mean, all the way to the end, she like watched me leave and everything, like I was about to wig out or something. It was like, oh, okay.
Rob Stoner says in the comments, I bet SMQAI wasn't the only customer who asked for the sandwich.
Could,
Like
yeah, that could have
maybe.
been it. And she finally flipped on me and was like, "No, I've had enough. We've not had this sandwich for 2 years." And I bet other people were MEs, and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
know, and they simply, either complained, or they said, "Okay, I believe you," and gave up. And I was like, "No, no, that's fine for you. That's," and I think what freaked her out was I said, I said, it's a, that's fine that, you, and I let a little bit slip. I said, that's fine that you haven't sold a sandwich in 2 years, but I've eaten it before that. She said, yeah, but Panera the company here. And she like like, was like animated at this point. And I was like, you know no, okay, that's I'm just like, no, no, no. So it was, anyway, looks like we got a lot of people here. And so it was just the weirdest thing, man.
It's just, yeah, that's just like, so, I'm kind of speechless here. I'm just like, it really feels like she's trying to enforce this narrative. It almost sounds like you saying, and I know you didn't, but almost like you're like, I was here yesterday and had that sandwich. And she's like, we haven't had that sandwich in 2 years. And all these people are asking me for this sandwich, and it's making me feel angry and afraid. So I'm just going to completely, bash everyone over the head with the menu and our company and everything. And maybe some people even said to her, like, oh, well, in my reality, I've had the sandwich. In your reality, you haven't for a couple of years. Maybe she's like on the edge of waking up to something, and that's why she's so freaked out. I have no idea, but it's an
Yeah,
abnormal reaction. Like you would, if you didn't suspect anything, you just say, oh, well, this guy, he just has no idea, how long ago it was that he was here. It's got to be a mistake. But she wants you to say that you're wrong.
right. And it's a actually, maybe this is a bit more deeper than I suspected, because if you think about it, the people that come to the Mandela effect willingly, right? Most people, they have something, the usual narrative that we all have together as a group, and like the same people that come back over and over again, is like, we had something odd happen to us, so we start seeking, right? And we're all seekers in our own way. So we're looking, we're looking, we're looking, and finally we stumble across the videos. The videos start. We start watching the videos. We're hearing the testimonies, and we're like, nah, no. And then then finally it happens again, right? It's like, okay, okay. And then finally it starts just, I think, sinking in for us. But think about that. We were seeking. What if there's a whole maybe subset of the population that could be the people that are more vocal against ME or anything like that? A prelim is looking, couldn't find the Italian. Yeah, the Italian's gone. And apparently, according to at least one manager of a Panera. It's they haven't had it for more than 2 years. Yeah, the toasted Tuscan grilled chicken. I'm a regular there. I eat all the time. I love the Tuscan grilled chicken, and I know all their sandwiches really well. And I like it because if you have to travel sometimes, you can know that you can get, kind of something higher than a McDonald's. You can get like in any city, you can get that, and it's like the staple. So that's why I go to it. Um, but yeah, it's it's crazy, man. So yeah, the great sandwich shift, absolutely, absolutely. So it's stupid, but it's funny because of the reaction. So it was like the first time that I've encountered, and I think I encountered it by accident in real time, and I think it's the first time in real time that I encountered it with a real person, and we had a real difference in opinion about reality, and we couldn't form a consensus. And I'm not gonna repeat that call for zero, but that's funny. But it's just weird, man. It was just weird.
Super weird. I don't know if there's if Steve Turner gave us $2 super chat, but he says up the volume, so I guess we're both a little low. Are we sounded okay to everyone?
Yeah, I heard. Okay, I changed the volume after that.
Oh,
Everybody,
perfect.
yeah.
Sorry,
Trust.
I'm paranoid now because I ruined one show by being way too loud, so now I'm like way over the top.
No, no, and besides, I mean, I love the crew here, but they let us know right away if something if something's off, chick. They let us know right away.
Good.
So no, we're good to go. So all right. All right. That's the side topic. What we decided to do was talk about that, folks. To get everybody in here because I've learned that with this new software, a lot of the regulars, were missing the first part of the show, and I wanted to start a little bit early and just have us kind of a side conversation so everybody, all of our regulars could load in, and you don't have to miss the show live. And I can see the chat. I can see it. Ah, it's a top chat. I'll put it at live chat. I can see everybody, you know, um, and see everything, and you don't miss it. So thanks, Seth. I appreciate that. So and thank you, Steve. Meat clouds your aura and your chakra flow. Yeah, I know, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it, Steve. I love those Italian sandwiches. But I have stopped eating beef, but still, I still couldn't help it. Anyway, all right. So yesterday I heard, while I was actually at Panera of all things, I heard your show, Chick, on your channel. And if anybody's curious with Chick's channel, it's just type in Chick Mandela Effect on the YouTube search. It'll usually take you right there. And it was a great show. And while I was listening and doing battle over the existence of an Italian sandwich, I caught what you were mentioning about the body entering and exiting avatars. And then so earlier today, I did a whole 5 minute just to kind of blurt it out. And the idea is that we have avatars as bodies, but our consciousness or our souls or whatever jumps between different avatars and different versions of reality per shift. So it solves twofold problems. It solves the idea of what the shift is, and it also solves the problem of the NPC and the value of the NPC, because everyone had a lot of problems, understandably, about NPCs and not valuing, people and their, the idea of an NPC is there's like a caste system, and that's not good. So, wait 1 second. Sorry, I had to cough. So when listening to your show, I was thinking about that, and then it came to me that, on top of your idea, there's the idea of, so the body is jumping in and out of the avatar during a shift. So, and the body itself is within the normal bounds of a version of reality, or that frequency which creates that reality, and it jumps from frequency to frequency, or that version to that version of to that version of reality. But then also too, what's important is that means that everyone is an ME, and that even though they're the broader population for this version that we're all together in right now is or this group that we're together, we find our cohorts together in it, as MEs. that means that there are other cohorts and other versions of reality, and we see them as NPCs, they see us as NPCs. However, together, we're in different versions of reality at different times. But they, there's an infinite, and there's not an infinite number of me, but there's different versions of me, but there's only one version of me at a time that actually has me in it. And then I started to think, what if you could take the number of MEs that are going right now, let's say it's 100,000 right now, and I'm just throwing out a number, and you divide that by the world's population, that could show you the number of versions of reality that there is out there. And I was starting to think about the golden ratio, the golden mean, the Fibonacci sequence. Everything is based off of a very, very simple mathematical property, or a mathematical, anything like that. And I was like, this is exactly probably something like this, something very basic, something really easy to do, something that is very basic in math that could probably give us, a number of what are the versions of reality. And I thought that that solves all of those issues, all of those questions all at once. And so, what do you think?
I think that that answers, like, as you just said there, a lot of questions, because one of the things that I've mentioned over and over with my 2008 experience is nobody noticed that I was gone,
Yep.
like back on the Sagittarius arm. And I've always wondered, like, why did nobody say, wait, where were you? Or, if something crazy had happened and I died, why would people say, oh my gosh, why are you not dead? What the hell are you doing? Like, still being alive? Like, what the hell's going on? Because people were very, it was like everyone was like us on the Sagittarius arm Earth that I was on. I'd never met Orion type people until I came here. So, and I've seen people wake up as in they were like kind of NPC'd out, and then it's the next time I saw them, they were showing me the map and saying, what happened to South America? What's going on? So it's, I don't know, it's been kind of in the back of my head for a minute, but I think that you put it together very, very well there, is that it could indeed be an avatar situation.
So yeah, I just I think it's something that is, and people are mentioning, and what I want to do is somehow try to, we started to do talks, right? Like if anybody is still, if you haven't been with the channel from the beginning, what we did last time before we got the gateway document was you and I were talking about the gateway document before it arrived, and then it really kind of arrived. We started to talk about World War II before that. I did that thing with the Philadelphia experiment, and we kind of evolved into the Gateway CIA FOIA document. And then that opened up it opened up a lot of doors, but it also answered a lot of questions for us. And then we were able to go to that next level. And now we're at this next level. That theory here that we've pieced together right here is almost, I almost feel as if it's a precursor to something else that's going to come into our lives in terms of revelations or information, in terms of a revelation to us. The gateway document was a revelation to us. It was something that thunderstruck us. We were absolutely, just nothing was the same afterwards. But we had almost some of the same people are here, but we had lots of different people that have come and gone since then, but they were there to experience the evolution up to that. And because we don't believe in linear time, we could be already borrowing from the future right now. And if you really know about retrocausality, you know that, the idea of the past affecting, the future, or the present affecting the past, or the future affecting, just, mix it up any way you want, except for the past, present, future way. We could be borrowing from another time. And you and I, we bounce off each other pretty well with the input of the audience. And I think we've got a real revelation here in order of that next level. And eventually what will happen, I think we're going to see some kind of something come into the channel and into this version of the chat of the regulars, and we'll all have it. We'll all have the paperwork for it. We'll all have the receipts, as they say. Like, we have the receipts for Gateway. We have the receipts for, just, we went through a tear for a while. So I don't know.
Well, there's just like a couple of things I want to say, and I hope I can remember them all. But the first thing is that to me, the gateway wasn't just that, it was showing us, the toroidal aspect and everything, but it was like a confirmation. Because way before I ever got involved with, with the SMQ channel, when in the version of reality where you were SMQ and not SMQ AI, but I'm sure you were doing this as well as SMQ AI at the same time
Mm-hmm.
in a different place. How weird that is. You were already onto so much of this stuff. You already understood about the cymatics, and you were already saying things that then the gateway document confirmed. And I thought that was so amazing because you understood the concept of pulling things out of fiction and how that influences reality and can turn into reality. So I think that you sidestep you were already operating outside of the usual linear time before we even realized that the powers that be understood these things too, and were probably have been doing this for a long time. And I'm sure they have amazing remote viewers. I'm sure they have all kinds of stuff. They're claiming they have the looking glass technology. They're, and as I talked about on the show yesterday, probably by just looking at the possible timelines in the looking glass technology, by being observers, they probably locked those in and made those timelines real just by looking at them. And that
Oh
was a
yeah.
problem because they locked in the wrong ones.
Oh, totally. No, please keep going. I was just like agreeing with you. Like, yeah, totally. You observe something, you make it real. Period. That's it. You observe it, and that cat is alive or dead. That's it.
Exactly. When you have a person involved, it has that effect. And I think that I have, conspiracy theory that's unfounded and unsanctioned and on everything, but I said it on my crazy random live table show the other day, sorry, round table show, that I think that at this point they realize that when you have observers, you lock things in, whether they're good or bad. I think they probably have a quantum computer looking into a looking glass technology and going through all these different, possibilities and only showing and highlighting the desired outcomes. And then the observer just looks at a list of desired outcomes. Because when you have just a person look, as you so aptly said, then the cat becomes dead or alive. It locks into one timeline and then you're stuck in that. And they admitted in this video from 2012 that a whole bunch of people had these looking glass technologies, or rather, a whole bunch of governments, and they were all looking at it over and over again, hoping to get the answers that they wanted. And they stopped looking because they kept getting the answers they didn't want. And I'm like, okay, so you had a bunch of people basically with these very elaborate, you might call them scrying mirrors or, whatever you want to call them, looking into these possible outcomes and making them more and more, real and nailed into being a possible outcome the more they looked. And nobody seemed to realize how detrimental this practice was and how it actually pulled all of us into a whole bunch of problems. Because I was amazed. They're not Mandela affected. They're not claiming to be Mandela affected. But they were talking about timeline 1 and timeline 2. And timeline 1 sounds like Orion, and timeline 2 100% sounds like where I'm from. And they kept saying timeline 2 was going to end up in a disaster, and timeline 1 was going to be this like crazy ascension process where people were going to basically, he didn't say it like this, but it was like people are going to become free radicals, and that they were going to be, in a sense, that they were going to be not under the same kind of density. Perhaps they're not locked into the same things as the people in timeline 2. So, people might not think any of that is real. And I even said, I don't know if any of it is real. I just take it as food for thought, that it as a possibility. It's knowing what the government knew, it was a crazy thing to do.
Well, and something. There's a lot. I saw the video too, and I know it's like it's running just all over the place in this, I guess population or whatever it is, and considering I know time itself isn't exactly, it's kind of rickety itself. I'm still dubious about that kind of technology existing. It could absolutely, and I'm, I and like you were saying, I have absolutely no, um, I don't have any way of saying it is or isn't, whatsoever. I have no idea. I watched the video as well as probably half the conspiracy world did. It is interesting that it had popped up just recently again, and it's just been tearing through everything. Um, but I will say one of the more interesting thing about the idea of looking at it and it not giving you the outcome that you want. At the same time, I was watching the Theosophical Society, and I know it's demonized by a lot of people, but I don't pretend to be something I'm not. And I know a lot of people have a problem with that, but I personally don't care. So I watched it, and there's this guy, Richard Smoley, and I tweeted it out on Magic and the Occult. And he was explaining about magic and the occult and the basically the mechanics of how things actually work. Um, and you get towards the end of the talk that he was doing at the Theosophical Society, and he was someone from the audience because it was a Q&A session at the end, and someone at the Q&A was like, well, did you know that Yale University and Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard and all the big universities, all the top universities on the planet, they'll pay $1 million to anyone that can prove anything paranormal or occult. And the guy was like, yeah, 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 I know about that. And he's like, well, how come no one has ever been able to prove anything like that? And we'll even go to the site, whether it's like, a Sherpa or something or anything like that. And I'm like, and he was so quick with it. He was like, well, the problem is you. You're the problem. And the energy that you bring, you as the observer, and what you believe in, and the energy that you hold as the observer, you're the problem. And I was like, it fits in so perfectly with what you just said. It fits in so perfectly with what we've read with our research. It fits in so perfectly with everything that we've encountered over the last 2 years with this channel. And just in my personal life, if you're negative, and if you're the outcomes that you have personally are nefarious or whatever they are, that's what you're going to have, and that's what you're going to bring in. I mean, it sounds trite and cliche at this point about the law of attraction and all of these things, and it just sounds so cliche, but there's a lot of things out there at this point that just sound like you're beating a dead horse that are true. And if you're coming in as not a believer, if you're coming in as someone who's not just a skeptic, no, you're a partisan, then of course you're not going to. Even in our political arena, they're talking about, a tale of two timelines. I actually saw that on NBC this morning. Something's about to come out politically, and people are all worked up about it. And the reporter had to admit both sides are going to be able to see exactly what they want to see in this thing, this big bombshell thing coming out, and both sides are going to be, and it's like there's two different, and he said the word timelines going on at once, and I was like, wow, if that wasn't designed for me, I don't know what was. And it's like,
He's
I
so right. Yeah.
and it's not about me, like me as a person, it's about this thing we're all in that I don't understand. But it was like watching that, and I know I only watched that for that end question there, because you could tell that the fervor was an atheist. It was a materialist, a reductionist, a total atheist, and you could tell they were worked up. Atheists they get all itchy and they get all angry and stuff, and you know what I'm talking about. No matter what you say, they're like smug, and then the smugness leaves, and then anger. It's sort of like the Panera manager. The smugness leaves, and then the anger comes in once it's like, no, I won't bend the knee. I just won't. I don't care what you call me. I don't care how much you laugh at me. I will not bend the knee. I will not do it. I just won't, because I know what the truth is. And that's what was happening at the end of this thing. And it was just like, wow. So I am dubious about the claims and all that. And I know it's from 2012, which obviously for me, I'm biased towards. But if this technology does happen to exist, certainly, chick, the observer is going to affect the outcome. And it's a shame by 2012 someone should have known that, since we're looking at FOIA documents from June of 1983. Someone should have known, especially with technology that sensitive. There should have been a smaller number of well-read people that knew technologies like Gateway, and they should have known.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was absolutely crazy. But again, sometimes there's so much over compartmentalization, that things that make sense and should be strung together, the dots are never connected. And
Hmm.
that maybe that was a case like this where they never had the guys working on this talking to the guys that understood the gateway process, or it would have been very simple, to say, like, hey, you need to be very careful when you're handling this. Uh, oh, Steve Turner's given us like $5 and another $5, and like, wow, you're thank you very much, Steve Turner, for all the super chats.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
He
That's great.
says it about the avatars. I thought about this before, but it doesn't change, or sorry, it doesn't explain the changes unless the changes are there to show the individual ME that he or she has shifted. I suppose if you're shifting into a different version of the world, maybe the Ford with the curly Q or the Coca-Cola, maybe it always has been that way in that world. And it
Yeah.
does let you know, like, oh, I've shifted. But maybe it's not like a deliberate thing. Maybe it's just like that's literally how Coke's always looked here. That's literally how Ford has always looked here. There's nothing weird about it here. Even when, people were talking about historical changes the other day, and I was just thinking to myself while they were saying, oh, this historical event has changed and that historical event has changed. I was just like, I think that our bias is really, we think the real historical event is the one that we grew up with. But really, it doesn't hold that much more weight than any other timeline's version of the same historical event. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
just like,
Hmm.
we believe it's more real because we've had it all of our lives. But if we were from some other, from Orion or from the Capricorn arm or from, wherever, and we shifted into the Sagittarius arm, it would seem just as fake and bizarre and different and unreal as any of the Orion stories are to us. I'm starting to think that there is no one original version of anything. There's like just a million different versions of the same thing, and they're all real.
So then, if that's the case, Chick, then maybe we're looking at the fact of that it was a combination of both of originally what we were talking about. It was a naturally occurring event. However, either we've changed or the technology has changed us for us to be aware of the shifts. So either it's this, people talk about this ascension thing, which I'm dubious of that, but let's assume the part of the side effects of this ascension would be being able to see the breakdown, or being able to see the charade of the reality that's around. I don't want to say charade because it's not something that's negative. It may be protecting us. The idea of the reality that's around us, that we see, that this desk that I'm hitting now, the mic that's in front of my face, the screen that I'm looking at, perhaps all of this is here for that purpose, and us being whatever we are at whatever frequency we're at, we're able to actually start to see that. And maybe it's not a dissolving consensus, but it's rather a side effect of an ascension. Or I don't really have the vocabulary for it because it's the first time now that I'm like really paying attention to it. But it's like something like that. And perhaps the reason why people come and go sometimes is they're literally gone, and they've gone to NPC and they are elsewhere. They have shifted. And that the little group that we have isn't necessarily static. And that also would explain, like, people for the longest time was like, it was never AI SMQ. Your Twitter handle used to be SMQ AI. And I always remembered it as AI SMQ. But that means there was a version of reality where it was SMQ underscore AI. But I'm here as me now, so I will never remember that. So it's like, okay, I have to believe you because I have to respect this process then, because otherwise I'm a hypocrite if I don't believe it.
I hear you. I'm just like, yeah, having seen like the changes even in the names of different channels, including your own, and in Twitter handles and things like that. And then you have no memory of it, but the people that, follow your work all do. And they're like, hey, when did you change your YouTube channel name? You remember when everyone was
Oh,
saying that to you? And you're
it,
just like, what?
it,
What?
it was like a barrage for like a week and a half, and people were just, a lot of people were upset with me, and I was like, I'm not trolling you. I promise I'm not trolling you. And, fortunately, I hope I convinced most folks. And, I do remember it was a bit of a hiccup for about a week and a half or so that people thought I was trolling them. And it's like, I'm not trolling you. I'm not. I promise I'm not. But then I too was thinking, I'll admit it. My first instinct was like, you guys are just wrong. And then I was like, no, they're not wrong. And when you've got a lot more people than yourself, then you've shifted and you got to accept it. And it's like, okay, then it changed and that's it. That's okay. That's fine. I can roll with that because I don't have to have the dominant worldview. And I preach, I don't preach, but because I don't try to proselytize, but we talk every week about this and for it to happen to me and not think that I would be part of that fallout is absurd. And that's why the sandwich thing yesterday was important. It was vital. And it's so ME like to make it something you could make out of a joke, a sandwich, an Italian sandwich at a chain food place. And it's like that's so ME like. That is so ME like. So
But thankfully, you did have the information, so then you didn't become like Karen, the manager with the sandwich. Like you didn't say to people, "No, this has always been my name," and over protest the situation. Here's the receipts that I never changed my channel name. No, you were just like, "Okay, I actually have some context for this. I understand
hmm
that literally for you, it's been a different channel name, but for me, it never has."
and maybe part of this process for all of us is to witness someone begin that process, and I believe that last night that was the beginning of her journey. um, I think it's the beginning of the journey, and that's kind of cool to see someone begin their journey. And maybe we don't know, what life is about. I mean, I've seen and I've been very open about some of the sad parts of my life where people have passed away prematurely, in my family. You've been pretty frank about your life as well, and that's what I saw and experienced. But to them, I don't know. We don't know. We don't. At least I don't proclaim to know. I don't. I just don't know. So I think it was kind of cool to see the beginning of maybe somebody's journey is the way that I choose to look at it from last night.
And I hope that they, continue that journey. I think something that I'm trying to articulate that's not easy, but I'm trying to say it because I think it's important is I almost feel like it's a deliberate thing that
Mm,
we're out of the natural flow of time and that it's our kind of time to wake up and we're moving on this trajectory towards like seeing the real reality. I don't feel like it's, something deliberate on each one of it's, I don't even feel like it's necessarily, it could be a free will thing, but it almost feels like it's pre-programmed, like it's what was supposed to happen to us during this lifetime. And I've been feeling that for a while, and I don't really know how to explain it. I feel like I'm on a river and I'm being pulled by the current, and I'm supposed to go down this way. And actually, I already have gone down this way. And it's really hard to explain. It's kind of like that deja vu thing of not only is this supposed to happen, it's almost like it's part of the video game. If this whole thing is a video game, that maybe we've just reached the top levels and we're either going to a bonus level or we're done and we're going to be free from the constraints of the beginning levels.
well, now that we've had this breakthrough, like what you're talking about, this idea of deja vu, it simply could be you remembering, like fractions of the NPC life that you're living. An infinite number of NPC lives, or a finite, but whatever version of NPC lives. And because you were there before at a different time, you're just remembering the NPC part of yourself. Because even though it's an NPC, it's sort of like the subconscious. And perhaps that's the reason why we only use so much of our brain is because there's so much in there that's going right now elsewhere. And the deja vu, because we've had this breakthrough here, perhaps this explains even the deja vu. It's an NPC part of you, and because it's a different timeline, you did something just a little bit different, maybe a couple versions over, and you're actually remembering that moment. And you've just touched it. That it's almost like a note from a song. Sometimes you'll hear a song and they can't quite sue, but it just reminds you of the song. And then sometimes they have too many notes and they get sued. Musicians will sue one another because they've taken just too many notes from a song. But every now and then there'll be a bit of like the Beatles. I'll hear a bit of Beatles and like a lot of band's music, but it's not enough to go, wow, you're just ripping off the Beatles. Or I'll hear a bit of another iconic rock band. I'll hear in music and I'll go, oh, wow, you can tell some of their influences. Perhaps it's a bit like deja vu, is where you just hear a couple notes of the part of your day and you're like, hey, this reminds me of something, but you can't quite put your finger on it, but you were there before, and it's just and you're just like, wow, I wonder what's that's all about. I don't know.
No, I think that that's really one of the deepest mysteries and perhaps one of the clearest parts of understanding true reality that we have is deja vu, because almost everybody has had deja vu at least once in their life. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, some weird thing. It's not like, oh, I saw a ghost or something crazy. It's literally, and people, scientists try to say, oh, it's a chemical or, oh, it's reboot, your brain is rebooting or something. And it's like, no, you literally know you've already been somewhere. You've already done that. And Mandela affected people, especially, I've heard that they go 3 or 4 times deep in the same, deja vu, that they're actually deja vuing, that they've already deja vued this multiple times. And it's like your consciousness is overlapping on itself in the same moment. Very, very possible that that because you've basically moved beyond a linear time construct, point A to point B to point C, and you're trying to move in a fourth or fifth or sixth dimensional way through time, but you're not quite able to yet because you're still, a work in progress. So you might be traveling up and down the linear aspect of your NPC life, so to speak. Because
Hmm.
I've personally I've had weird flashes, where I'm just like relaxing for a minute in the room, and I'm kind of just looking at the walls and the ceiling for a second, just chilling for a moment, and I'll have a flash to what rooms looked like when I was very, very young, and then also flashes to like I feel like I'm in a hospital bed and I'm very, very old, and
Hmm.
I'm feeling all of that, and then I come back to the present and I'm just like I feel like I'm walking up and down in my own life looking for a way out. It's not that I'm moving forward or backwards. I'm like facing in all directions and I'm like, okay, how do I bust out of this? I'm done with this.
Ooh. Oh wow, that's really powerful. Man, I think for me the biggest thing that I've started to evolve into is my dreams are getting more vivid, um, and they're more like it's hard to really. For me, the thing is the dreams are more vivid, and it's like I've been there before. So I don't know, I know dreams for me. Before ME, when people would talk about dreams, it was a total snooze fest. But without snoozing everybody out, it's like as if a version of deja vu now. It's just that this version of deja vu now uses maybe something like a veil or a cover, and then gives me symbols that I'm familiar with, so that maybe I'm protected from myself or something I can't really handle. And there's like something there to really guide me, so I don't, so I can handle it all, or something like that. I feel that's the feeling that I get, is that there's like this benevolency there that's there to help me and also protect me, and yet still let me know that the recurring things that may seem abstract and odd are still something that I need to take back with me in my waking state, if that makes any sense.
It does. And just as you mentioned, like your dreams, I think something hit us last night because I very rarely now have like unpleasant dreams. And it wasn't even really unpleasant, it was just like a strange dream. And
Hmm.
I saw a lot of people commenting on your stream earlier that they've had that like last night they had bad dreams, they had weird dreams. Um, and I don't know why it's coming back to me just in this second, but I suppose because we were talking about deja vu and everything, I just had like the weirdest moment in a dream that like almost snapped me awake, where I was sitting on my mom's sofa, and I think it was like 10 or 11 years ago, whatever. And I like have an out of body experience in my dream. So I'm turned around looking at myself sitting on this sofa, and I'm looking all like just ridiculous. I'm looking like really pale and like kind of cockeyed, like my eyes are pointing off in different directions. And I just like swoop in on myself and I say, "You have to wake up. You got to wake up. Like it's time to get going, you know." And then I immediately switch to the other perspective and I see like my spirit or whatever swooping towards me saying, "You got to wake up." And I feel this weight in my body, like this kind of entropy where it's just like I'm trying to wake up, I'm trying to get into that state where I need to be consciously and consciousness wise, but it just feels like I just feel really heavy and I feel like kind of half, I don't know, half crusty or moldy or something. I feel like I'm not quite there. I'm not up to the challenge yet. And I wonder what I'm trying to tell myself with that. Is like I'm getting close to real reality, but I'm just not out of my NPC form enough yet to totally get there. I wonder if anyone else kind of feels that way.
Yeah, it's a great question, and you know, kind of picking up on what you were talking about the safety aspect of it. I think a lot of it is about that safety aspect of it because for me too, about the Mandela effect, one of the more um, I think one of the mechanisms for safety about the Mandela effect is it does kind of warn you whenever you've kind of gone out of the boundaries that you're able to handle. And you and I've gotten into that before where I could just tell there were things that like car crushes and things like that that have warmed to me and I knew to back off. You know what I mean? And I knew to kind of pump the brakes. And you know, I think that it's certainly one of those things where it knows. So it's odd, you know, I don't know if there's two or three separate factions and we call it the Mandela effect and we just lump it in because we don't know any better, or if there's one separate faction that is guiding, it's a guiding force. And that force is taking us through all these different phases. Or it's battling factions and one gets over the other almost like a chess game or something, and you know, and you just don't know. I just, you know, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously we're speculating, but I think the stronger positions that we've taken earlier in the show talking about jumping in and out of avatars and having those avatars, just repeating for anybody who's just shown up, we were talking about the idea of jumping in and out of our avatars. So there's me, and there's a finite number of versions of me, and I jump into one. And whenever I jump into that avatar of me, SMQ, it's a little bit different in different versions of reality. And whenever I pick up on that, thus we have the Mandela effect. And because kind of we, you know, we've been doing this show long enough, we're on show what, 80, and we do it, you know, once a week, so we're talking 80 weeks, and sometimes we've missed a week or two, so we're 80 plus weeks into this. We see people come and go, and maybe it's not that they're coming and going at, you know, being active in the chat. Perhaps they too are jumping, you know, to different avatars on the other side of these dimensions, on the other side of these frequencies. Perhaps it's interesting. Hmm.
Tad Ghostal in the chat says some people believe the Mandela effect is occultists going into astral projection to perform hypnotic suggestions on others while they are asleep. And I
Amazing.
would say, interesting take, definitely interesting take. But a lot of us are, you know, our astral body or our higher energy bodies are literally active, and it would be very difficult for someone to come up on us and for us not to see them. Like I'm aware, even when I'm deep asleep, when something has entered into my dream space that's not me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Totally. I totally agree. But in terms of people saying something like that, you know, I feel more comfortable with kind of what we've been doing, where we start talking about new ideas like this and then we bring them into reality. You know, like we did with Gateway, like we did with World War II. Well, not necessarily World War II. World War II is a bit of a cluster, but we, you know, hopefully we didn't anyway. But we brought Gateway to us. You know, it's sort of like, you know, the teacher will show when the student is ready. That's the way that I prefer to look at it. Now, you can say I have no control over my destiny and give in to fear, or you can choose, like I say, you choose love And if you do that, you can say, I'm rooted in benevolence rather than malevolence. And by rooting myself and trying to, you know, use everything that I have from a place of general curiosity and trying to pass forth maybe information that people could help with, then hopefully the things that will manifest here, like Gateway, it'll be something that will further help me understand at the pace that I'm ready to understand. Um, and then that way we all can understand it together. And then as people jump in and out, you do it at your own pace that you can understand and what you can take. And then if you're not, then that's fine too. You move on to something else and you just say this is bunk, or you shift or whatever. I don't know how we don't know how it works yet. We're still working on that. We just don't know.
True. And like I feel like I'm in an awful hurry to figure out the Mandela effect and to move on to other levels of understanding. But I think at the same time, there's probably all the time in the world to do that. As in if someone else is set at a different pace and it's right for them to spend like the next 50 years figuring it out. I think that that's perfectly just as valid as someone that is going to spend the next 5 months figuring it out. I think that it's all happening at different paces. And I definitely see people having breakthroughs like before I do. And I feel, weirdly enough, I feel like they're kind of the same breakthroughs that we come to. It's just when are you actually getting to that point in this journey? It's like not a race, it's a journey, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Oh, and Prelim says that when he's in the astral realm, he's going to go to Panera and order the Italian sandwich.
Absolutely. Please do. And make sure you get the peppercini because the whole point of the sandwich is the peppercini. It's the whole point. And that's what really makes it stand out too is that peppercini because it was so, it was so when I first had it, it was so amazing to me to have something that was a chain restaurant. And first off, they knew what a peppercini was, but second off, that they decided just to put it, even with the stem on the sandwich. And I thought, wow, that's really chic for a restaurant, a chain restaurant. I thought, oh, that's really cool. And, I can tell you it wasn't 2 years, but that's okay, that's fine. And now I'm deriving from the conversations we're having and reading everybody's stuff in the chat and talking with you and everything. Perhaps the purpose of doing this was witnessing someone at the very, very early stages of their own journey, perhaps. Because I'm not trying to look for something negative out of it. I'm trying to look for something positive out of it. I'm doing the best I can in terms of trying to make it something positive. And by doing that, you sort of do that thing with the cat. You do if you read Gateway, then you're doing that thing. You're making it be so. And I can tell you, I freaked out when I saw the trees, and I did a whole video on that. It's a place that I pass every day, and they moved around a lot of things that were kind of swampy, marshy area, and they dug it out, and they let all this water flow through, and then they lined both sides of this jogging path with trees. And then I came by one day, or I drove by it one day, where people jog regularly, and one side had these tall, mature oak trees, and the other side were the regular, tiny, skinny trees that weren't mature. So the craziness was, it was like I had to get out of the car and ask people about it, and no one remembered it but me, and that wigged me out. And that could be the stage that different people find it. So there you go.
True. And even, more like not more so, but even just as crazy is when it suddenly shifts back again. As in, like, tomorrow, the trees might be completely different. Tomorrow, the sandwich is still on the menu. It never left the menu. What are you talking about? It's always been this way, is just what you're going to get from people around you. And that's like a double. The flip flops really, really hit me hard when I started to see them.
Man, if they bring back that sandwich, even though I'm really advanced, that would be awesome because I really need that peppercini in there, man. That crunch is what it's all about.
I hope Karen comes up with the menu and hits you with it and is like, that sandwich has always been on our menu. What are you talking about?
And
It must be some other Karen. I'm going to call the other store. I'm going to call corporate And you're just like, just get me my sandwich. I don't care.
And I'm like, okay. And I already revealed what my signs are. The little characters, that they're not sigils, Lanessa. It just says Future Worm. That's it. That's what they mean. It's just all it was a free. All it is a free. It's called Leviathan. It's a free font, and you can do a snap in with the font. It's a free font, free for commercial use font. And it's a snap in into Microsoft Word. And I left it in there to see if anybody, everybody claims to be like, really sophisticated or whatever. Not everybody in the chat. I'm not, but certain people have claimed to be really sophisticated, and they're like, "Oh, this is sigil, and you're doing magic on us, and you're putting us in a trance." And it's like, man, it's a snap into Word, man. All it says is Future Worm. That's it. That's it. It's like future and wormhole. Future Worm. That's it. That's it. That's all it was, guys. I've already talked about it before, and I just, it's not a big deal. It's just for some reason I think, and now I leave it in to troll people, just like the planet there. Half of it is me being I'm subtly trolling people because it freaks out people. It's Future Worm, not future like wormhole, not Future Room, Future Worm. But Future Room actually would be good too. But
I'm like,
that's
I like the sound of Future Room. That sounds like a really good album or something.
yeah, that sounds very cool. But that's it, guys. That's all it was. It was, and I guess I'll let I'll let it out of the bag here for everybody, since so people are so convinced I'm pulling off some kind of wizard stuff on people, and it's like no, guys, no, and that just shows, though, I think it's thank you, Ben Jojo, for the $5 for explaining it to you. That just shows, though, it's a great way for people to be, are you from fear or are you from love? And if you were thinking that I was someone sinister, and you distrusted me, and you thought that I was trying to pull something, a fast one over you, or I was trying to hypnotize you, or I was trying to get in your head, or I was trying to hurt you, or I was trying to do something to negatively affect you, then now hopefully you'll learn from this that that's not the case. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to hypnotize you. I'm not trying to put an astral spell on you, or all of the millions of things I've heard over the years. It's none of those things. I just thought it looked really cool, and it turned out it really revved up a lot of people. I just saw we had like so many people leave the chat after I admitted what it was. So literally we had like 9 people hanging on for what that was, and now they're
To just see what it was.
it
There's
was
something about your reputation. People just go crazy and accuse you of being everyone on the internet, and accuse you of being a wizard, and accuse you of being like just every kind of crazy thing. And I've never seen anyone that has that problem more than you. Even Suso yesterday asked me if you have a different channel and if you're a different guy. And I was like, no, it's just his voice. For some reason, everyone on the Orion Arm thinks that SMQ is every man on the internet on
mm.
every random channel.
Yeah, and now by that people jump to conclusions. Mr. Laugh says, I thought you were more into the occult. I mean, I'm not admitting that I'm more into the occult, but just because I did that, and I did a snap in from Word, doesn't mean I'm into the occult. See the assumptions that people, and that's the bias you've got to work through, and you're casting what you want to see on me. I could be very much into the occult for all you know, and I could make actual sigils, and yes, sigils aren't sinister, but I don't, and I didn't, and I haven't put up a sigil, and I haven't created a sigil and cast it on anyone here. So no, you're fine. I'm not about that, and I'm not gonna do anything baneful. So
On a totally tangential tangent,
mm,
Bit of Venom, who was a great co-star yesterday, thank you, Bit of Venom, says also a random number. We can remember the number and then see if it changes with the shifts. So like you could pick a random number right now, and we could come back and play this, in a couple of weeks and see if the number has changed, because that would be hella spooky if it did.
so say that again. I'm trying to. What did you say? I'm sorry.
He's saying just pick a random number out of the air, say like 1222,
Okay, 12 to
random
2.
number,
I like
and
that.
we can come back in like a couple of weeks or in 3 months, when there's been a couple of definite shifts, and we can see if that number has changed.
Okay.
and see
Yeah.
if we're saying a different number like with our voices live on air.
That would
Because definitely some of our videos have changed, so that would be wild to see.
that would that would be really trippy if it's not 1222, because I think, I've said it before, we did that experiment with the oh, thanks Josh, appreciate it, man. Um I we did that experiment, and I don't think I performed it right, not, about the World War II thing, but that was just an experiment, but that this experiment I like this a lot, and that could be a great kind of benchmark kind of thing. So yeah, I like that a lot.
I think that's definitely an interesting experiment. I've seen people do experiments with like dice and with colors, like paintings and things like that, and they do actually change with the shifts. It's really, really wild stuff. I think the wildest thing I've seen though is people with their diary entries saying that they'd read their own diary back, like in their own handwriting, and the entries are different.
Yeah, yeah. For me now, I do that. And I'll look back with something I've written down. And before I used to go, man, did I really say that? And then now it's like, no, I didn't say that. That's a shift. So, but we're doing it in public and we're doing it with a lot of people, which makes it even more powerful. It adds to that powerful because, I freak myself out all the time. So what? Not belittling that idea when people do it on their own, but for me personally, I'm like, yeah, I've shifted. That's not my handwriting. This is someone, you know, SMQ esque, but it's not me. So, but yeah, that with a lot of people, that would be 1222. There it is.
Let's keep that in mind, guys, and then we'll come back and we'll even play this little section of the video and see if it's changed to something totally different and crazy.
You
Uh,
look. We've dropped. Chicks started jumping. We were at over 104 or 5 people. Since I let everyone know about Future Worm, it's dropped down to 88 watching.
yeah, because now you're not like a big scary wizard that everyone's like,
Love
trembling
it.
away in the chat, like, oh, his spells are out on display.
Well,
And
I
it's
think
like,
it's
no, that's
twofold.
like Microsoft Word, fam. They're like, oh, that's not even threatening. I'm out of here. I want to go to someone that's really threatening me.
Well, that and it's twofold too, because it was on the one hand you had people thinking I'm this big bad wizard, I guess, and then on the other
Yes.
hand, no one was able to come to me and really scare me and go, "Hey, man, future worm," because that would tell me you can at least do a snapping of Microsoft Word. Like people were telling me they were coming after me, right? And they were gonna come and get me and do bad things to me and stuff. And it was like you can't even do a snapping and find this man. Why are you coming after me? And if anybody's like really deep into the into the occult, they would know certain things and certain principles. And it's like, I mean, dude, you know you're gonna have to look elsewhere. And it's
On
like,
the other hand, like if you're really deep into the Microsoft Word, occult, of their different fonts, you'd know all about wingdings and all the weird fonts that are out there. You'd know that it wasn't like something crazy to start with.
it's awesome. No, JoJo's. I don't think you're not supposed to be afraid of me. I've never intended that at all, ever. And it's just people have made up so much stuff, and it's just so stupid. And it's like, no, man, it was a Microsoft Word snap, and that's it. That's all it was. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's all it is. It's like, oh my god. I wish I could hear all of the theories about the symbol and what it means, and the great part is that most of the people will forget. I don't, maybe not in the chat, but we'll get a new batch of people this time next year, and they'll be like, "What is? What are you doing, you wizard? What are you doing to my
Hmm.
subconscious? I was in traffic the other day, and I thought about smashing into the next car, and it was you, SMQ, because of your Microsoft." And it's like, no, man, it's Microsoft Word Snap In. Sorry, man.
It's like, man, the only one projecting something crazy on it are the people that think that it is something crazy. You know what I mean?
And
It's like they're turning it into something on themselves.
and and
It's
it,
really weird.
I gotta say, in an odd way, by me doing that, it's like a mirror then to themselves. Really, it's on you. You do it to yourself then, because all I did was put out a bunch of symbols. No one's freaking out about the golden arches. What does that even mean? What does it mean? And it's like, what, man? And for some reason,
People.
just
Mhm.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say people are like mirrors of themselves. As in, I
Hmm.
was just randomly thinking the other day, the people that demand the truth, demand it, demand it, demand it, are usually liars. The
Yeah.
people that accuse you of cheating all the time are always cheating on you because
Hmm.
they always project their own fear of what they literally are doing themselves.
Well, it's
And maybe it's like people that are like, oh, I'm trying to be a wizard. I want to be as crazy a wizard as like Dumbledore or SMQ or any of this, and then they find out that's Microsoft Word. It takes away that mystery and that craziness that they were looking for.
oh yeah, totally. And it's because, like you were saying, like liars, or if they're bad people, it's because, well, if I'm doing it, then everyone must be, because I'm this bad or I have these feelings. So everyone must be doing it. And of course, SMQ with his advanced wizardry skills, because he was able to do a Microsoft Word snap in. It's just, I know that there's something more to this, but no, it's seriously, go to free tools, type it in Google, and then do Leviathan font, and it's a free font, and then type in future worm, FUTUREWORM, and you'll get those symbols. I did it the other day. I promise it'll do it. You know what I ought
Bit
to
of
do?
Venom says, "You are a wizard, Microsoft Word," in a
Yeah.
Hagrid voice.
So, but I let it go for the
Silly.
longest time, and I loved, man, people were worked up. Oh my God, it was hilarious. They were so worked up over a lot of nothing. And it really gave you the idea of, if you listen to, oh gosh, who's that guy's name I listen to sometimes? He's an occult guy, and, and he's like real down to earth. What's his name? Oh gosh, Sheridan, something Sheridan. And he makes fun of the people who they blame everything on, like Crowley, and they blame everything, and it's just, it's like, it's really funny because I see that with the symbol of SMQAI, and it's just like, yeah, people really flip out when they, and it's just the fear of the unknown, and it's like, maybe this could be a learning moment, a teachable moment for you, that if someone's been sitting there toiling for the last year to figure, Thomas Sheridan, thank you, Jennifer, Thomas Sheridan, and he does this impression of these people who freak out and just wig out over nothing, and it's like, it's hilarious. Yeah, Mr. Laugh, people have threatened me. People have threatened me. They've threatened me with all kinds of really insane things. And it's like, if you knew how boring I was, it would be like a big letdown at your trial. I mean, it really would be a real big letdown at your trial. And then you're in prison for 30 years for shooting me. It would be just like, what a letdown. It's like you need to go after like really like cooler people. Seriously, if you're gonna throw your life away, do it for like something cooler than me. I'll tell you what, man. Yeah, the bear wigged people out. It's like I don't get it. I don't whatever. So, but then again, people are still trying to break down movies and stuff, and some of it is, it has, yeah, it has that kind of meaning, but they want to do that. They want you to cry. They want you to laugh. They want you to do those things. There is no like I'm getting on my soapbox.
No, but you make a very good point. People who do expertly break down, videos or movies or things like that, it is going to come into a certain amount of it is just going to be a mirror of themselves, as in they're expecting it's all about Crowley or it's all about the Illuminati or it's all about, Dave Johnson, the Christian stoner, whatever it
The
is that they're
bong
all about.
ripping Christian. Thank
That's
you.
that's people. Just in case you didn't know, that's one of SMQ's. The lore around SMQ is that he is Dave Johnson, the bong ripping Christian,
Yes.
in his spare time,
Yes.
and that he lives in a mansion in Madison, Wisconsin, that is paid for by the super chats.
Yes. Thank you
So
very
just in
much.
case anyone was worried about that, that's some of the SMQ lore. There's endless SMQ lore. I don't know what it is, but people love to write lore around you. You're the perfect like protagonist in their stories.
I feel like I've probably done some damage to that tonight by giving up the quote sigil, the symbol. But I'm sure people will forget and some will move on and then others will just be cool about it and then we'll get like 4 or 5 people. What does that symbol mean? I demand to know. And then, once you tell them like, we're down to 86 people watching, we're coming up on the hour, which I get, but we literally, once I said it, I watched it, chick. We lost like 10 people instantly and it's like, stupid.
Well, it's just like, come on, guys, what on earth is going on? I mean, you were really that hung up on the symbol that you watched, 80 something episodes to just try and figure out what it was to, sleuth it out.
I love it. I love
And
it.
then as soon as they find out, they're like, I'm out of here. I've solved the mystery.
Well, and the problem is too, it's twofold. You couldn't find it on your own. It's a font, man. You couldn't find it on your own. You couldn't find a Microsoft Word font on your own. And I'm telling you, had someone who had threatened me gone future worm, I'd have been like, okay, well, all right, fine, okay, what's up, man? Because that, all right, what's going on? Not that I'm gonna freak out, but had you given me the word, the password, the secret password, future worm, I'd have been like, okay, what's going on? But it was like, no, dude, you don't even know future worm, man. You don't, and it's like, it's on my machine. It's on my machine.
I'm just like, the way to keep followers apparently for the live shows is if you didn't address it and you just said, "Wouldn't you like to know?" and had
That's
like loads of
brilliant.
sound effects and like
Damn, I should.
thunder and lightning crashing. That would have been perfect.
Well, now that I know our numbers are free falling, like we're down to 83 people, and I'm sure it's because the show's late, but I really think I should have kept up some of that mystique now. I really feel like, oh crap, maybe I should have kept up some of the mystique, but that would have been. All right, we're coming up on the hour, folks. I've had my fun. Get the thumbs up for us. And thanks for everybody for the super chat. So we're at anything you want to throw out there, chick, before we shut down?
I want to thank all of you so much for the super chats. Steve Turner went wild today. He gave us like $20 or $25, and so thank you so much. But no matter what amount you gave, thank you so much for supporting the channel, because Susan, she's at it again. They're saying that the YouTube policy is on the 10th of December. They're going to be randomly getting rid of any channels that are not commercially viable. So the better we do, the more likely the channel will still be here.
Yeah, and if we
My
get
channel is probably wrecked because I'm not even eligible. I wouldn't monetize because I'm not going to give a cent to her because I don't like her policies, the CEO, the current CEO. But because I'm not even eligible to monetize, it's probably my channel's probably going to get axed. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and if we have to, what we're gonna do is we'll have to go to another platform if we get shut down. So follow us on Twitter, and that way, hey, thank you, Mustafa, for fifty
Thank you
dollars. That's
so much,
holy cow,
Mustafa.
man. Thanks, dude. Gee whiz, holy cow. Yeah, guys, if we get shut down, just follow us on Twitter, and what we'll be able to do is keep you informed about what's gonna happen if we have to move on to like BitChute or if we got to do Twitch for the live. Fortunately, we've got OBS, so that way we can do the multicasting, so we can be on Twitch and different places, more than once. But if we get shut down, we get shut down. It's not any, it's out of our control. So, all right, guys, we're out of here. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much.